Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hello friends, hello foe, and welcome to episode 8 of the Comedians. My name's Jonathan, and joined with me this week, as he is every single week, is a very special man. In fact, he's the first man to ever cook the carbonara on Mars. It's Mr. Joshua Petrenko.
That's me! I love it. I use guanciale. I bought it all the way from Earth.
Oh, that's good.
I'm buddies with that Tesla bloke, Mr. Musk.
Yeah, he told me in his reusable rocket ship for you.
They told me that it was a one-way trip, but I just decided I want to come home. And so I came home just in time for the AFL final, and here I am.
That's good. Yeah, it's a reusable rocket, so why not reuse it to comb? What's the point of making a reusable rocket that just...
I'll tell you what happened. Yeah. I pit him versus Jeff Bezos, and then I got a cheaper fare up there.
Oh, I thought you were going to... Did you come back with Richard Brandt or whatever his name is?
Yeah, exactly. You know, what I did is I went onto Webjet, right? And then I was like, listen, I got one guy telling me it's $100,000, another one, Bezos, he's my friend, he's just telling me, just go up with that guy, that bloke from Star Trek, and it's going fantastically. There
we go. Well, Joshua, something that doesn't seem to be going fantastically is the saga with you and the slightly dodgy supermarket down the road.
Just to give it to go before as we get to the start of this podcast, I want to say, I might have a if I sound a little hoarse, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat, but I'm ready to hop into this podcast.
Oh, yeah? He's ready.
Look at that segue. I'm ready. A
segue after a segue. I love it.
Segue after a segue. You segued before I could segue, so I just rolled with it. Yes. Dono, as I said, this freaking shop, it's driving me nuts.
It's coming back.
So let's recap
on the show now.
Okay, it's become a character, so it's worth giving it a recap. Episode 2 or 3, I came to the show with this sign, and it said, 200% fresh, replaceable refund. It's just a ridiculous sign because
200% fresh is just unbeatable quality.
Because if it's fresh food to begin with, then why would you have the thing that says replace a refund? Which really just says that it's not fresh food, but we're just going to say it's 200% fresh and just see our conversation we had about this already. It's a great bit. Big fan. But
Honey Mustard in a Mop Bucket, I think, is the episode if you want to go back and listen to it.
That's a great name. I can't believe I forgot that name. Great name. But Jono, I returned recently because after last episode, and more recently, last episode, I did a quiz for you about being an everyman. We're not done with that, but we're not going to continue that with this episode. This is going to be we're going to go back to that at some point. Don't worry, I will not forget about that one. But Jono, we revisited it. I gave you a bunch of everyman items, and you were guessing it. And when we realized this place is like ultra expensive compared to everyone else.
Yeah, because I was going off Coles prices, and I was way off.
And it's not even like a fancy place.
No, I saw it for the first time on the weekend.
And we'll get into it in a moment.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later.
All right.
But yeah, you saw it on the first time of the weekend. It's a kind of trash heap.
It looks awful. Can I just say that? It looks awful.
It's one of those things where it didn't click to me until I came back the other day. Because, so there's that sign. And I initially plotted it so that it was near the prepared food. This is the sign that we're talking about. Put it up here, put it up somewhere. You'll see it. It says prepared meals, 200% fresh. But I always thought that it's just in the prepared meals section. It's just the sign they use for every freaking section in the shop.
That's great.
So good. The funny thing about that is in the fresh food, all the veggies and stuff, it'll have that sign there.
Does it still say prepared food or does it say fresh food?
I don't know. Oh. I actually don't know. I don't think it says... I hope it says fresh food.
Yeah, so they probably changed the title of it, but it's the same guarantee on the bottom.
200%, guaranteed 200% replaceable refund.
Good.
What blows my mind even more, and what kind of person, thinks about this kind of... what kind of person owns this shop? I just want to meet the person who owns this shop.
Oh, it's an IGA. His name's on the door. That's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know who this Peter Monty is. Anyway, but this place, it's got a slogan. It's got another slogan.
It's
got
not an IGA slogan. Is it the?
I don't think
it's got its own local slogan.
I don't know. I don't even know what is the IGA slogan.
How the locals like it.
Okay, it's not that.
Okay.
That makes sense. So that is a
Yeah.
good slogan because it makes a lot of sense, And Woolworths has the fresh food people. That's a good slogan,
They
right?
do. I don't think
it
Coles
implies
has
that.
one though.
I thought Kurt Coles does have one. Doesn't like Curtis Stone say something other than down, down, prices are down?
Maybe he does. He's got a set of new pots and pans coming out now. That's all I know about.
Doesn't everyone have a set of pots and
Yeah,
pans?
like
Can I
Jamie
get my
Oliver
own
and
set of
stuff
pots
does.
and pans?
Yeah.
I want to.
The
Can I get my own set
Cooking
of
with
pots
Josh
and pans?
set of cooked
Yeah.
pots and pans.
You know what? Maybe in the future.
Maybe in the
But
future, yeah.
Jono, so we're going on to the slogan. So, as you said, IGA has how the locals like it, which is a great slogan,
It's
implying,
great.
we make food for
The
how
way
the
you
locals
want it.
like it.
Yeah.
It might not be how everyone likes it, but we know the people in our community. It has to do with community.
It's like specific,
All of these are very sort of specific, and they're very good at garnering a community around them.
Mm.
This IGA doesn't have that. Its slogan says, "We serve to serve again."
Oh no. It sounds like it's a police
really low
department.
bar. It's a really low. Okay, now we can start connecting dots here. Is what really starts to blow my mind. So we have this. One time we have a sign that says 200% replace a rerun. I'm like, oh, that's a bit weird. Then I walk to the back of the store, and no, the slogan isn't pasted at the front of the store. At the back of the aisle, you turn around, there's this big thing that says, "We serve to serve again."
Serve again.
Not we serve to serve our customers. We don't.
Or to
We
satisfy
serve the community.
you. Yeah.
Our service will satisfy. No. No. Why would it be that? That's ridiculous.
That's
we
like
serve to make sure that just to serve again.
Just enough to get you to come back. It's like politicians, or it's the point of being a politician to get re-elected. That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Joshua, not to be one of those people always on the blower about COVID, but Celebration Day, Freedom Day, whatever you want to call it, just passed this weekend.
Even.
Freedom Weekend,
Freedom
I know.
Weekend.
And while people going out there on Freedom Weekend, getting their haircut at 3 a.m., the pub at 4 a.m., that kind of thing.
Getting a sausage sizzle.
Exactly.
How did you spend your Freedom Weekend, Jono?
Well, Joshua, it's interesting you may ask, because I decided to, it was a Saturday afternoon, after lunch, I decided to pick up my good mate, Joshua Petrenki.
That's my name. Can I say, Jono, before we get into this story, because I love where you're going with this, but can I just can I sort of portray the story from where I'm coming from? Which was end of the week. It's a Friday. I'm just having my usual, just getting off of work, just having fun, just getting ready to just get into the weekend. It's Freedom Weekend. Think about, what I'm going to do. I just see a text pop up on my phone that just says, "Hey, man."
Yeah. Don't say where, but do you want to go to X?
Do you want to go to X? I'm like, that's a really weird way to start a sentence.
Exactly. So, where that place was, it was Saturday afternoon. Pick up my good mate Joshua Petrenki, as we now know his name is.
Petrenki.
And we headed off to the lovely metropolis, the thriving celebration district of Melton. For those of you who don't know, it's a very outer suburb of Melbourne, disconnected from the rest of the metro region. It's best described as, If
I was to describe it, it's... Have you ever seen Hunger Games, but like at the very end when there's just like nothing there, and they go into that district where everything got bombed and everything's
that's
horrible.
what it is.
That's what Melton looked like.
But it was never good to begin with. It's not like it got bombed. It's just developed like that.
Except it's 20 years later, and they've developed some shitty new property on top of it.
That's honestly what it is. So
it's a horrible place where dreams go to die.
Not where many people would spend their Freedom Weekend, but the reason this happened is I had ordered a package from JB Hi-Fi. Lovely little
very normal thing to do, by
the lovely little Google Nest, just a cheeky little gadget that you don't really need, but it's nice to have,
it's just a nice thing to have.
Must be nice. And I could have done just what do you call it? Click and collect from the JB Hi-Fi, about 4 minutes away from my house. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to pay $10 for delivery, get it within a week. Nice, simple.
Very
What
simple.
you don't like to see is when you sit in your front window at your desk, working from home all day, and then you get a text on your phone that's from a certain logistics company called Toll, just to remain nameless, and they say,
exactly.
the courier was unable to get a signature. Please take the You Won't Home card to this address. And first
we
of all,
turned up.
there was no do not
Right. Yeah, it
didn't
was
respond card. It was just a
Right.
no-show event.
It was one of those. It was an auto text that said, "We turned up and you weren't there,"
Yeah.
which is a hard thing to sell compared to someone who may have just recently reorganized their desk so that they can see out onto in front of their house.
I faced the street.
It's just how is this still a thing?
Yeah.
Dude,
So the fact that the card wasn't there as well just shows that he was just a no-show. He didn't even bother or whatever. Right. They're busy, but take it to the local post office or something. But no, obviously he never came remotely to the area, so they dropped it off at not a distribution center in Melton, not a package collection center, but a 7-Eleven on the side of the highway.
A 7-Eleven.
And that's why I wanted Josh to come with me. I'm like, this is just so sus. It was at a 7-Eleven.
It's one of those things, Jono, where you get a text from your mate saying, "Hey, you want to go out for a beer?" That makes sense.
Yeah,
hey, you want to go out? You want to go out on the town? Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, man, my parcel didn't turn up, and I need to go up to fucking Melton. You want to turn up? Of course. What are you gonna do? You're gonna say yes.
Yeah, so that's what we did. How long do you reckon it took? 45-minute drive out there.
Probably. It felt like forever. we were driving down that ghost town for years.
It's really weird because it's very disconnected from Melbourne, but there's just random industrial areas and stuff that kind of never ends the whole way out. So we drive there. It's the worst navigation system I've ever seen. There's roundabouts in 80 zones. There's on the highway that the lanes always just ended, but there was never signs saying that they were going to end. Big roundabouts, but no one knows how to drive out there, so it was just people doing whatever. I definitely didn't drive out the wrong way of a one-way car park. I didn't do that.
No, we would never do. Are we sure that the people out there are actually humans? Maybe that's why they can't drive.
Well, the parcel collection system didn't even need a human.
There was a robot.
It was like a robot who did it. That was awesome.
We looked like idiots because it was one of those 7-Elevens where they have. I now realize it because I was going nuts. I walked over to my local 7-Eleven and they have a big folder thing with a parcel lock. I didn't know that.
They've got the same thing. They must be rolling them out now.
It just must be a thing, but it's just one of those. It's just one of those things.
Yeah. Look, I wouldn't recommend it. Highlight of Melton was the Botanic Gardens that we didn't go to because it absolutely started bucketing with rain.
Pelting rain. Exactly.
In a residential area. Can I just point that out quickly?
Yeah,
normally Botanic Gardens are in a far away, lovely area, but we were in the kind of nothing area, and then we drove into a housing estate, and that's where the Botanic Gardens were.
And it's one of those things where you kind of expect a Botanic Garden. I mean, again, we didn't go in. We wouldn't know what the Melton Botanical Gardens look like.
Could be a 5-star tourist attraction.
I mean, we wouldn't know. But, you would assume that a place that would be very sort of English influence. But it was just a bunch of dirt and a gum tree.
Benches, But look, end of the day, if you ever get a parcel saying go and collect it from a 7-Eleven in Melton, just count your losses and move on.
Jono, it feels like supermarket anecdotes are all the range with what I've brought to the podcast so far.
I'm not mad about it. No,
I don't have a problem with it. I love a good supermarket anecdote as much as the next man. But for today, I just want to sort of do an ode to a certain brand of person you see going into the supermarket.
Oh, I like brand, not demographic. No,
just a brand of person. It's a certain brand, and I'm talking about the people who are crazy enough to bring a giant trolley into the self-service checkout.
I've done that once before, and it was awful.
I like using those those medium trolleys, and I'll throw those in to
The
use it.
one that doesn't have a belly of the trolley, it's
Super
just like
deep.
a shelf.
Yeah, exactly. Just a shelf.
Love them.
That's the one I'm
Did
talking
you
about.
know? Did you know with them on the self-serve
Mm.
checkout, you can push them right up, and
What?
the bottom goes under, and the top bit goes over,
Would
like the bag
not
shelf.
know that.
Yep,
That
I
is
saw somebody
new
do it
tech.
like 2 weeks ago.
That is
Blew my
new tech.
mind.
What the heck?
I know.
Okay, maybe I need to try that next time. But
Try it.
I'm
Highly
talking about
recommend it.
here's the thing that I've started to realize about self-service versus sort of normal checkout. First of all, I never will go to a normal checkout if I can help myself. That's
Oh
just
no, I would do
base level.
4 separate
If I
shops rather than do a big shop and have to go to a human. Yeah,
I would
100%.
I'd rather do like numerous of the same self checkout. I watch the guy
Yeah.
who sees me go in and out of the same place for whatever reason through the self checkout before going to a person. The only difference is that confusing shop that we talked about just before, where I'm genuinely talking. There's no choice but to go through a person. Another
Same with
reason
like
why it
LD, like you
baffles
have
me.
to go through a person.
Another reason why that baffles me, but. Yeah, I don't understand LD either. I'm sure we'll get to that at a
They get
later
to sit
date.
down though, which is nice.
That's weird. I don't know how I feel about that, but it's. I'm talking. The thing is, when you do self checkout, I find at least, you get a more in depth look at the kind of person people are around you, and
Yeah,
you
because you
start to
can
get
kind
more
of like
subconscious
look
of
around and
yourself.
stuff. Yeah.
I'm the kind of person. I'll go, and my shopping list is usually kind of medium to short. It's
Mhm.
more that I've got a couple specific things I'm looking for, and if I see a couple things, I go, "Oh, that's interesting," or I can do something with that, or I need that, or I feel like a bicky, I'll get a bicky.
Mm.
That's the kind of person I am. I'll never go more than like 10 items in case if I can help it.
Yeah,
If I'm not going for a
exactly.
big shot, right?
For me, it's
Which is
more
why
like 10 extra items that I hadn't anticipated on my.
yeah, exactly. But I'm talking about I was at the supermarket. This was a while ago, but it just still sticks out in my brain. I can't really explain to you what kind of person this has to be like this, Jono. And it was the kind of person, and he wheeled his giant trolley out into the self checkout, and he just had like 3, not cartons of cans of Coke,
Mm.
just like 8 things of full 1.25 liter Cokes.
Okay, like
Which is
the
more
big giant
confusing.
like bottles.
Big bottles of Coke. Because if it was cans, you'd go, oh, maybe they've got some kind of sausage chisel.
Yeah.
Oh, if it was cans, it makes sense. It's sort of. But no, this was like 8 bottles of this 1.25 liter.
He fills
Coke.
up the water dispenser on his fridge with it.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Or they've got one of those water coolers in the office.
Yeah, big
and
water coolers and just fill, and when it bubbles, it just fizzes.
Yeah, that could be fantastic.
It just baffles me, these kinds of people.
It's like sometimes you'll see people with like 4 kegs of oil and like giant sacks of rice, and they clearly like own a restaurant or something, and they're just topping up at the supermarket.
For sure,
that makes sense. Yeah,
it's like people who live normally, and you can tell they're just a family, but they'll just get this giant like grain sack of rice, and you go, "There, you're not going to eat that much rice in a month. What are you going to do with that much rice?"
My mum did it once. She got like 10 kilograms of flour instead of like buying a box. It's terrible. It got like bugs and stuff in it. It got you can't.
Oh, it's just. I mean, you can get like a small pillow of rice, and I think that's a good amount of rice. It's a decent amount. But if you're having rice like a decent amount of time in a month, you'll probably get to like 3/4 down of that.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got a decent amount of people in your house.
Like the big giant sack, unless you run a restaurant, you probably don't need it.
Yeah. Why do you need why do they sell those in a normal supermarket? I know that there's only so many places people can go, but maybe just don't give people these giant quantities of things, because then they'll go, maybe I do need like 10 million grams of rice. That seems like something I might need. Why do you need that? Don't get that.
No, you probably don't need it. Look, with the self-serve, I had one really awkward encounter once. It was the beginning of 2020, and this was kind of just on the border of panic buying, where
Right, yeah.
people were beginning to go, oh, maybe people are panic buying. And I think the only thing at this point that had sold out was, I think toilet paper was starting to go. People were getting worried about that. And as well with like napkins and paper towels and stuff.
Right, yeah.
But everything else was like kind of okay. It was in that in-between stage. So it wasn't yet frowned upon to buy large quantities of food, but you started to feel like a little uncomfortable. And I, as has been documented, I've been heavily involved in the Ultimate Frisbee Club, and we were having our welcome barbecue,
Yep.
the biggest event of the year. We get everyone to
course.
come down, like we do our promotion, and we get everyone to come to like this park in the city, and we have like a big fry up and have a toss of the frisbee.
Oh,
It's
fantastic.
really bad, actually. Eat lots
Extreme
of food
mobile discos.
and then play extreme mobile discos. But we went in stupidly. We learnt from our mistakes. We went and got all the food like the morning of. And we went to, we're going to like an inner city park. So we went to Pran. I've probably butchered the pronunciation of that. Just next to
Paran.
South Yarra there in like inner city Melbourne.
Yeah.
And it was a big Woolies, but what they had done is, because it's predominantly inner city, like apartment living people, they're just doing like small shops after work. So there was actually no big checkout, but we're buying like $200 worth of food. So we've just got like trays and trays and trays of stuff. And that was the thing with the sausages. We bought every single sausage in that Woolworths because we were expecting to go and get like maybe 10 or 12 trays of like the 8 barbecue sausages or whatever. But we had to get a couple of beef, a couple of pork and chives. So like we had to get all the gourmet ones
like
just to get quantity.
The giant quantities of crappy ones. You had to get like 8 of those.
We had to piece it around and get a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, and then we couldn't have any napkins or any hand sanitizer because that all been sold out. But there was no checkout, so we had to go to the self serve with like a whole like mumbo jumbo trolley like filled up to the brim, and we're like, there's 2 of us, we're like trying to like do it through the self checkout, and then the lady comes and she's like, okay, like I'll help you. So one of the staff comes and she's like scanning it, but she's standing at the normal self serve checkout with us.
Oh yeah.
And because it's a self-serve checkout, there's like no conveyor belt. So
there's no
put all the bags like on the floor.
Yeah, there's no infrastructure.
There's no infrastructure. So we were just completely blowing up their whole system because we bought all the sausages. We'd bought like all their bread. It was terrible. And now we've just clogged up. We've taken up like the one next to us on either side as well. We've just taken up that much room. But it was so awkward because like normally it's like really awkward small talk or just like silence like when they're scanning you through. But because we were being such an inconvenience, like the weight of that silence was just like pressing down.
You feel like you have to say sorry every 5 seconds.
Exactly. That's literally what we're doing.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
At the end of it, I've just gone, yeah, all this is just for the 2 of us. And she's gone, oh, really? No,
just don't.
I don't need 200 sausages. Joshua, it's well documented on this podcast that I've recently concluded the university studies. Haven't graduated yet, but everything that I need to do is done.
Done.
Pretty much. A couple of loose ends here and there, but like
more or less.
For the sake of things, we're done. And
most of the tape's been cut.
Exactly, and enough of the tape's been cut, perhaps.
For sure.
But I want to cover off some key areas of university, a speed run of university life, if you will. And the first area I want to cover off is lecture theatres, and I think you, more than anybody on this podcast, I think can actually play into this because I've had quite small classes. You were part of a bigger degree, and you have also got quite a fair bit of experience in this area. And what I want to think about is the seating plan. Now, before we dive into it, in a typical lecture, first of all, did you usually sit in the same spot in lecture rooms, in the same kind of position in most rooms?
So we didn't have like a seating plan, but
there's always like an unwritten
a couple
one.
Weeks into the course, it was very clear where people sat and who they sat with and who they didn't sit with.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. There was a rule of like, right, if you knew X person, you're with them. Otherwise, and you just want to not be with them, you go sit in the corner and you just do your work.
Yeah, the groups kind of, especially in a lecture theatre we're talking about, there's kind of like designated areas where like certain
sure.
groups were. What was
Right,
your like typical spot? Were you a front rower? Were you a middle, a side?
I fluctuated. I'm not a
You
good
you're a
example for this.
floater. You're a
I was a
floater.
floater. I think it depended. I tried to sit in the middle because if you're too far back, we
Yep.
both have glasses. We
Yep.
can't see anything.
You can't see anything.
Half the time I'm trying to write stuff down and I'm usually trying to quickly type stuff down. So I
Yeah.
need to be kind of within range of whatever I'm trying to focus on. So
Yeah.
yeah, middle, and that fluctuated to maybe middle back if I wasn't feeling comfortable for
Yep.
whatever reason.
That's
Or
good.
middle front, and it's because, I was on top of the topic and I'd done the previous work.
Yeah, that's good. I think you've subconsciously covered it off pretty well. Yeah, the front is for the people that are absolutely on it. They know exactly what's happening. If you forget when something's due, they're gonna know. If you forget
For sure.
exactly what the lecturer said, they've covered it. I probably fell into that category of person, but I wasn't a typical like keen bee. I wanted to go on the quiet side. So the middle is probably where I should have gone. But to our first lecture, our mates and I, we kind of came in a bit later than everybody else. So the middle was filled up. And the middle is awkward because there's like 8 people that you got to sit with. We had like a really
Right.
core group of 3. And on the side at these like old school RMIT lecture theatres, there was like a row and it was 4 seats wide that went up on the
Okay.
right hand side. We'd always sit there. And it was literally the worst spot that I've ever sat in my life because you literally can't see anything. You're on the side. So everything you're looking at, it's like watching the TV but sitting like next to the TV. That's
It's
like
like
what it was.
that reminds me, like if you're in like high school, you never want to be on that really far side. As much as it being maybe a good spot because your back's against the wall,
Yeah.
you can never see what's happening on the
And like the teacher's
on
like
the board.
standing there and you can't see
Yeah,
through them.
just standing in between you and the board. And
Yeah.
as much as you don't want to sit in the middle, you can't sit on the other far side because that's, Gaza and such people. And you don't want to sit
Yeah,
with Gaza because
No.
Gaza sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to sit on the other side because that's where your friends are. And you've just
Yeah.
screwed yourself is what's happened.
Yeah, but then the middle is primo, definitely. But then, yeah, the back is like the guys who it's just a wall of laptops and they're just
For
having a
sure.
LAN party or something like that.
Well, probably. Exactly.
The second important thing is food on campus. And I think people, they get this idea of uni, there's coffee shops, cafes, like heaps of like cool places to eat or whatever. We went to different universities. You went to probably one of the
did.
top tier. I went to the slightly below top tier
I would say you're still
universities.
pretty up there. I would
It's
not
up
put
there
you
in
down like
certain things. It's up there in certain things. It's
Okay, sure.
number 1, but in
Sure.
overall, it's yeah.
Sure.
Still has a dear place in my heart,
Of
but
course.
it's the experience I had. There was like no food. There was a burrito place. I'll shout them out. Holy guacamole, amazing!
Wait a
mate.
second. What do you mean? Wait, don't call this bullshit. I'm calling you out on this.
Yeah.
Of all the people to complain, you were in the city. You're right next to everywhere.
That's where I'm getting with this.
This is a ridiculous argument.
RMIT.
If anyone wants to complain, I'm gonna let you finish.
Yep.
You finish.
It's not a complaint.
I mean-
What I'm saying is there was a holy guacamole on campus, which was really, really good. There was this
Right.
other place that changed hands, I reckon, like at least 3 or 4 times a year.
The university shop that was bad. Do you
Uh,
have one of those?
Yes,
One of those, like,
yes.
really bad
That sells.
university shops?
They sell merchandise for like
The
$60.
The
and
off-brand.
that's
There's a
it.
bunch of like. Did you have a bunch of like shops that were like off-brand something else?
No,
Like
no.
we have, okay.
Literally, all we had was the burrito place. We had the place that changed, and we had the university shop, and then probably
Okay.
150 cafes. And
Right.
the uni like really tried to force you into buying them and stuff. But as you were saying, there's no right to play because you're in the city, and that's exactly
You're
what
in
it
the
is.
city.
There's just
You're not gonna-
no point. You're not going to go to a $18 burger restaurant on campus
It's-
when you can go
right.
down the street and get like 5 things for
Yeah.
$6.
Here's like the problem, right? You exactly of the places to choose, like where you went to, you were right in the middle of the city. It's a kind of one of those things where like it blows my mind. Of course, the uni is always going to try and get you to go to those kind of shops, but like they were really fighting like steep uphill battle.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I wanted to ask you though, because
Right.
we had so many other options that I think the uni just gave up in a way. but you are definitely in an
So
isolated spot.
compare right. So I went to again high further away from the city. They
Mm.
went. You have to go through the city off to like western suburbs. Sucks. If you know, you know. If you don't, then it's okay.
Eastern
Ask
suburbs,
me.
but yes, very very far away.
West, east. I don't know.
One of
East.
them.
That makes sense actually. Eastern suburbs. I meant eastern suburbs. But so where we start, we basically had the main campus, and this was like the off campus from the main campus, which is further out.
You're in a
On the
satellite
main campus,
campus.
they had like a couple. It was big enough. It was big enough. The main campus where like they had some like branded stuff. They had like a grill. They had a schnitz.
There was no
There was
way.
a
That's
schnitz on campus.
awesome. There was
Yeah,
a
that's why
grill on
that place was
campus.
great. Yeah,
That's sick.
there wasn't a. Was there a grill? It was definitely a schnitz. Might not have been a grill.
I know, like
Anyway,
Melbourne Uni has like a Subway and a sushi
right.
and
But like,
all this
here's what I
stuff.
was getting at. Right, we went on that. We went on that campus.
No,
We were on the other campus, and so that campus included there was like one food court, and that
Hmm.
food court had like it wasn't a holy guacamole. It was that one that always says like if you buy a burrito, you're contributing to something in the world. That one that had like
yeah.
used to feed hunger.
I know the one they're often in
That
like
one?
train station supermarkets. Food
It's one of
court,
those.
yeah.
It was one of those burrito places. People went there. I didn't like it. There was like I think it was a Boost juice or something close to it.
That's,
There
that's
was a
pretty good.
sumo
We had one as
salad.
well, actually.
There was a
That's the-
sumo salad.
That's the first place I ever applied for a job at. And I had the job interview. She was 15 minutes
And-
late.
oh,
First
God.
question was, "Are you free on Wednesdays?" I said no. She said, "Thanks for coming."
It's just oh no, that's brutal. That is brutal as well.
Ever go to sumo
And then-
salads?
I did end up going. That was like the place I ended up going to the most because the thing I
Oh,
liked the most. Like
There you go. Maybe I was missing out.
Though. Here was the
Mm.
problem. There was an arc to my stay on the campus. At the start of the term, there was really nothing else if you wanted to go there. You could go out to like the little town out just outside of campus, but
There was a
like,
7-Eleven
a bunch
next to it.
There was a 7-Eleven and then a bunch of like sit down places, but none of them was really good. It was a bunch of junk. There were
Yeah.
a couple of nice places, but nothing you really wanted to stay there for much longer. There was like a KFC probably, but halfway through campus, they were working on this new building, and underneath it had this new fancy hipster cafe. So
Oh,
as soon
nice.
as that cafe, no one went to anywhere else on the campus, and if they went to the food
Oh,
court, they
really?
just went there to sit because that was the place to go. Everyone went to that place, and it just became the place that if you could find a seat there, you just sat there for the rest of the day, which was my strat. If you could find a
Oh,
good
mate.
place and you could have a couple coffees going for the rest of for like a 2 or 3 or 4 hours, that was the
Yeah.
place to be.
You know what? This has indirectly brought me to the final thing I wanted to cover off.
Well, there you go. You're welcome.
And it's a perfectly natural rhythm to it. That's the seating. The study seating at unis
Oh,
is
God.
absolutely atrocious. And no matter who
Can
I
I-
talk to, they all have
Right.
the same thoughts. Yep.
Can I bring up something? I don't know if this is going
Please
to be
do.
one
Please
of them.
do.
And it has to do with bagsing. Bagsing
Okay.
seats at
Yep.
uni.
Yep.
And
This is
periods
horrendous.
of rest in
This is
between
horrendous.
bagsing seats.
Oh,
I never did this, and it drove me crazy. And I
mate,
felt
if you
bad.
do, just go.
Here's
Hand
the
hand
problem.
in
I know-
your
I-
resignation from the
I'm gonna be
uni.
honest, I would never do that. Why do people? They'll be sitting there for a bit, and instead of just picking up their stuff like a normal person, because they want to save the seat they're on and not be a nice person and let other people sit on
Hmm.
places, they'll just leave all their stuff there with the assumption that no one's going to take anything and just walk off. So
It's
there'll
like
be
a
just
get
like
there at 9
full
a.m.
study
kind of thing.
rooms,
Yeah.
huge library study rooms, where
And they've just like
50%
left
of
their
stuff-
bag on it and gone for 2
and
hours.
it's often in the morning when there's a bunch of tutes. So they'll leave a bunch of junk in there, and then you'll just watch by like lunchtime, people slowly coming in to pick up their stuff, and then putting it back down to sit there.
It's horrendous. What do
It's
you
just the
reckon
worst.
the acceptable time to leave something is? I reckon like if you go to the bathroom 5 minutes, come back, go and get a coffee, come back. I
I
think
would
that's
say-
okay.
I would say max I'll allow 15 to 20 minutes. That being
Yeah.
said,
You can do that once.
that doesn't give you that doesn't mean people can't be angry at you for it. I would say
Yeah.
it's like if someone caught you doing it, and even though I feel like I think we're in the minority here because I don't see anyone getting angry for it,
No one
and then people
cares.
just shove your stuff,
I did it
shove
once.
people's stuff, people
Once it
shove people's
was
stuff.
this something had been left there. I'd been sitting next to it, probably like 2.5 hours, and people kept coming up, and be like, "Oh, someone's sitting there, whatever." Some guy came by, it's like someone's sitting there. I'm like, "Nah," and I pick up the stuff and I just throw it on the
It's
ground.
just like I feel like okay. I think it's because I'm my kind of person. My head immediately goes to the judginess of I hate that like three people have left their stuff here and then walked away. But I'm never
It's
going to
mainly
be the guy
groups
to
that do
move
it.
it. But I'm
Yeah.
never going to be the guy to move their stuff for my mate to sit down. And I'm
No,
sure a bunch of. But
I
boy,
did
I
it for a
want to.
random, but I was so angry
Oh, I
because it was
really
so
want
long.
to.
But I
I
think
just
part of the
can't believe
reason
it.
that people do it is because at unis there's like no good seating. Like you might have
It's
one or two like
everyone.
floors of like a library that's like really just normal seating, a table and a chair. But every other seating space at uni, they seem to think you want creative study spaces. I'm so sick of them. Like RMIT
It's
has an area that's like a terrace. It's meant to look like the state library, but you're sitting on your bottom like the whole time. Your back doesn't have a backrest. Like, give me a
like
table and a chair.
okay, that wasn't the case. We had heaps of places to sit, but it
Oh,
was
really?
so hard to find a
Maybe I
seat
should transfer
in
uni,
Monash. I
especially an
said,
exam
but
period or
it
something.
was just so difficult, and it feels like it's like a war zone every time. Going back to the Hunger Games reference
Yes.
I made before. Like you'd go in there and you'd watch as you walk in with like three people. People start scanning the area, and you'll both see a spot, and you'll be like, It's like that moment of like looking at each other, going, "Are you gonna run for it? We're just gonna do that weird thing where we all walk, and people start walking faster, and just hope that they can just casually slide into the seat."
Yeah, a very related problem that we had with this was my uni was just down the road from another uni, and my uni was near a train station, and a lot of
Hmm.
people, especially during exam periods, from the other uni would come and use our library because it was close to the train station, it was close to the food and stuff, and there was like this big campaign. Everyone was trying to get the uni to bring in like have to scan in like with your ID
Hmm.
card and which would like free up more space. And they're like, oh, we can't do it because like you have to share resources, blah blah blah. Come COVID times at the beginning of this
Yeah,
year when
they
we could go back,
immediately.
they had the scan in things.
Oh, let's
Could get a
go.
seat every single time. So
I
yeah.
will say, as someone who loved as someone who was a student who would bounce between his friends who go to different unis. Like I did this, I've bounced around with you in your uni sometimes. Uh,
Not to study, just to
I love
visit.
being yeah. Well, no, I love slinking into other unis study
Oh
groups
yeah,
just to get a to change look of space. It
just
is
to
like a
freshen
nice
things up.
feeling. Just to freshen things up. It's like the same way I'll get up. And if I don't have any classes, I'll go into the city to go onto the state library to do a bit of work, right? It's the same vibe I get from that.
Look, maybe to get closure now that I'm no longer a student, I'll go into uni one day, or my student card still works. I'll put my backpack on the table, and then I'll leave, and I'll never collect it. And we'll just see how long that table can be bagged for. Sometimes you go to a coffee shop, you don't want a coffee. You might want be a little bit cheeky, maybe have a milkshake, right? And
Oh,
I think all the milkshake flavors are beautiful within their own right, but to be a little bit controversial, not a chalky milk man. Not a chalky milk man.
really?
Yeah.
I have,
Would that be your first pick of a milkshake flavor?
can I shock you?
Yep.
I'm not a Chucky milkshake man either.
But yeah. What would
I don't
your
mind a
go to
little bit
be?
of chalky milk. I don't mind a
Yep.
little chalky milk, but I've always been a strawberry Nesquik guy. So
Oh
if it's a milk,
yes, yes.
if
I've
there's
never
a
met another
milkshake,
man who likes strawberry Nesquik. It's so much better. It's so
so
much
so
better.
so yeah, well, exactly. And this is why we're friends.
Yeah, exactly. That's
um,
right.
so yeah, if I have to choose a milkshake, it'll go strawberry, vanilla, chalky.
Yep. I'd argue strawberry, banana, vanilla, chocky.
That's not a bad. Okay, I
That
forgot
would
about
be my tier
banana.
list.
Banana's like the problem is if they offer three milkshakes, banana's not usually on the first
It's
three.
normally
It's like
not
four.
included. No.
No.
At the cafe I worked at, we were fancy. We did all sorts of things. We had hazelnut and caramel and all those kind of things. Banana, I reckon it got picked once every 3 weeks. And it would be rare to get two
crazy.
on the
What?
same day as well. The only time you'd ever get two if it was for like kids and the parents had to make sure they
Yeah.
both had the same thing or they'd fight. But that's exactly what I'd say. Chalky milk, not great. And what I have really liked, if you go to a supermarket or whatever, when it translates to your Big M's and your Oaks and stuff, there's plenty more options. You don't have to stick to the same couple of things.
For
And
sure.
it's the same with your Dare iced coffees and stuff. There's all sorts of flavors. And I want to know, at what point has science gone too far? Because, okay, your standard milkshake flavors, they translate beautifully into your Big M format. And there's some other ones, like you've got maybe your iced mocha for Dare, you've got caramel, vanilla latte, even peanut butter latte, which is bordering on horrendous, but I think it's
Yep,
still
I agree.
somewhat acceptable.
Maybe.
One thing that I think is quite interesting is Oak. Now, Oak have done some crazy things, and I
Can I
think
say-
it's beyond acceptable. Yes.
For sure. Well, I mean, I will say going into this, I think you and me can both attest to the fact that we're both big fans of iced coffee. That's a thing that's been
Definitely.
part of our friendship for a long time.
Since
Sure, it'll come
high
up
school
again.
days.
Since high school days, we used to go down and grab an iced coffee together. It was
Yeah.
you were the one that introduced me, I think, to iced coffee.
Yeah, most likely.
Probably. And honestly, it's really ruined my life since. So I have to, I have to hate you for it. But
Very expensive as well.
very expensive. But I thought where you're going with the has science gone too far is that you were going to talk about sipper straws. You remember sipper straws?
What's a sipper straw? Is that
It's
the
a
straw
straw
go through like
with
your glasses?
It'd be a straw that you put in normal milk, and it'd have a bunch of little granules of a flavoring, and you'd sip
Oh,
it
no
through the straw.
way.
I used to get them when like prep. You could like order. It'll be like you could order. Instead of a chalky milk or a strawberry milk, I think you could still get them. But
Yeah.
like you'd get yourself a little carton of normal milk. And they'd get you a sipper straw. It'd be
That's
like a strawberry
great.
sipper straw. So you'd put that in, and you'd get your chicken fingers because you'd go chicken fingers, obviously. And
Of course.
anyone who chooses otherwise, okay, I'm looking at you people who get wedges. Okay. Anyone who gets otherwise.
Also,
You're a
people
savage.
who get wedges over potato gems. Oh,
Oh my god, you guys are crazy, and you can come after me. I know. I know. I see you. I see you lurking in there, also yelling at me about my hamburger. Okay, I see you. Anyway, sorry, you were talking about.
Acknowledge. Josh's threats is the new segment.
Look,
I saw the other day something that was quite nostalgic. It was the Blue Heaven. Did you ever have a Blue Heaven milkshake?
Oh, I was hoping you'd bring this up.
Yeah.
I hate Blue Heaven so much.
You
I
don't
never
like it,
I
really?
don't like it. No. What is blue? Blue isn't a flavor.
I looked it up.
Never
because
has. Never will.
Have you had it recently?
Isn't it
Is
just
it-
caramel?
Yeah,
That's what I would assume.
they've put it in Big M format, and yeah, it's
what?
raspberry and caramel, or raspberry and vanilla. One of them. And why it's
hate
Blue
this.
Heaven, I have no idea. But no, I think that's taken it a little bit too far. It's
Blue
still
isn't a flavor.
no.
The fact that you'd even think about selling it with the same with the classic Big M's is bonkers to me.
It's part of like
It's crazy.
the core team now of Big M's.
What?
But I'm going to run you through some of these Oak ones that have definitely pushed the limits far beyond Blue Heaven. First of
sure.
all, banoffee. Do you know what banoffee is?
Banoffee.
Have a guess.
Yeah, I think I've heard of what I think I know.
So
what
the ban would be
banana and
banana
coffee. Banana
and
and
toffee.
coffee.
That's what you would
Banana
think. It's
toffee.
banana and toffee. So the
Oh,
thing
no!
seems to be
Damn
put
it!
anything with
Oh.
caramel and it tastes good.
It's just sweet though. Caramel
Yeah.
isn't a flavor. It's just a way to
It's
put
just
sweet in
sugar.
it. It's just
If you've
sugar,
ever
man.
made caramel, you put sugar in a pan and what
you just
is
let it
melted is
cook?
caramel. Yeah.
I've done that. Yeah.
So you
Jesus
add
Christ.
sugar to anything seems to be the one. I
Yeah.
haven't had it. I feel like that would be nice.
Uh,
S'mores? I can't see a world where that would
That's
be
just
good.
sweet.
Because that's
That's just
sugar and
sweet.
chocolate.
That's just sweet. It's sweet, sweet chocolate. That's what
Just
chocolate is.
got
What?
chocolate milk,
Okay.
added more sugar to it. And that, Joshua, the first man who ever made a carbonara on Mars, that brings
That's
us
me.
to the end of episode 8 of the Committee Nons.
What a fantastic episode, I will say. It feels like
It feel a bit like a fever dream at times. I will tell you that much.
Look, sometimes that's just how our podcast goes, Jono. But we
when
made
you
it
run
to the end.
off, when you run off zero preparation, sometimes it's
Look,
just organic chaos.
Sometimes life gets in the way, and we just have a ridiculous episode.
Yeah,
And
but the
that's
more
okay,
ridiculous,
you
the
know?
better.
And speaking of ridiculous, the title of this episode is called "Serving to Serve Blue Heaven," aka, as you said at the top of the episode, episode 8.
If people want to find potentially more Blue Heaven content on the pipes,
Of
where do they
course.
find us?
You can find us on YouTube, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Insta, you can find us on TikTok, all at the Comedians in some way, shape, or form.
Fever Dream has to come to an end at some point, I guess.
For sure. I love talking to you every week. I thank all the people that come and check us out.
Huge
It's always
numbers.
very fun.
So many numbers of
Huge
people
numbers.
listening. It's almost intimidating to do this, knowing we're talking to two
They are all
people.
numbers.
It's crazy.
Numbers are a thing. Numbers exist.
But if you are a number, we thank you, and we'll see you next week.
What?
Adios.
Bye bye.